My life on shrooms. Yes, I've done a lot of shrooms. I haven't done shrooms in a long time. I did shrooms a lot though when I was actually younger, and especially even in high school. Shrooms was one of those drugs that was more of a fun drug for me. I did enjoy psychedelics to a certain extent. And I get asked a lot about psychedelics mainly because there is a tie to psychedelics and mental health and mental illness when it comes to even the type of therapy. For a long time, psychedelics were actually used in therapy. It was originally banned back into the 70s during the Vietnam War is when psychedelic bans started really happening. Shrooms is something that I think a lot of people have tried just because it is one of those that we have a little bit of a different perception of them because, hey, it's growing in shit. But hey, it's natural. It comes from the earth, just like weed. It's okay. Well, it comes down to the person too a little bit. If you're new to my channel, my name is Eric. Hit the like and subscribe button. It's all about mental health, mental illness, suicide awareness, sobriety, making sure that nobody goes through life alone. I'm not a doctor, not a therapist. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. Those are my diagnoses. And I lost a wife and a father to suicide. I try to share all the experiences, tools, and resources I can so that nobody goes through life alone. So shrooms, what it was like for me, it was a very warm feeling. It was a different high than from taking, like, I would snort microdots or dropping acid. Shrooms, I never really enjoyed them because one, I hated the taste. I am one of those that my taste is a very dominating sense for me. And no matter how you face it, I mean, they taste like shit and you can mix them with whatever you want. But the high to them hit a lot differently than what it did with acid and what it also did with microdots. And again, this isn't to promote any kind of drug use. This is to let the person out there struggling know that, dude, there is help for you out there. I even have links down below to NA and AA for anybody that is struggling. But when you are that addict and you are an active addict, even in high school, I didn't realize that I was an active addict. Everything about me was hitting the high as quick as I could. So microdots hit very quickly. Acid took its time. Shrooms, it just seemed like took its sweet ass time. But when it hit very, very heavy and very full effect. Mine was, the visuals were there for me. The sense and the touch was there. And I never really had any kind of like these mental breakthroughs. I'll hear people talk about these journeys that they went on and stuff. And I never really went on any journeys in my brain. I really just enjoyed what I saw. It was one of those that I enjoyed watching everything blend together and things move. Even though there's a part of my brain that knew that, hey, none of this is actually happening and it's my brain seeing this happen. But I enjoyed that. It was like a walking movie show going on. It took me out of reality and it put me into a place that it was very comforting for me. That's one of the things that I knew about acid and about microdots and the different drugs out there, that it was a drug that necessarily didn't get me high in the sense of how I felt inside when it came to coke or when it came to anything else that I did. It was like more of a warm blanket. It was more of an enjoyable sit back, hey, life is good. If I could smoke weed, it would probably be what people feel like when they're stoned. I would sit there and I would drink my orange juice and be pounding vitamin C. And I wanted just to experience everything around me. And I was very touchy-feely. I loved to feel how my skin felt. And it was one of those that it was really messed up because if I ever accidentally smacked things, which I did before, I would be obsessed that I was bleeding out massively out of wherever my body was hit or had any kind of mad pressure put onto it. So it did mess with my head in that sense. And I did it through school, usually is where I was actually doing all this at, because it was one of those that there was like the most visual effects for me. I wasn't a person when it came down to this drug that was isolate myself or anything of that sense. I was always around people when I did it. That way, I never really had any bad trips with any of the psychedelics that I did. But I also never had any of these, magical, changing my life journeys that anybody did. And I don't think I would ever do it again to try it, just because I know how my personality is, and knowing that, hey, I have the ability and the access to this would freak me out, because I know that it was a drug that I did enjoy, so I wouldn't be doing it in moderation. I wish that I would have had the ability to draw. I mean, I would try and draw shit when I was tripping, and my drawings didn't look like anything. I mean, when I'm doing them, I mean, they were fucking cool as shit. And then when all of a sudden it all wore off, I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? It's like a big circle. But yet I'm drawing these amazing pictures. But I would get lost in just staring at things because I just enjoyed the visuals so much. And it was funny because those were my strongest and still are my strongest senses. One of my strongest senses that is a default that's actually weak because I do wear glasses, but visual to me is extremely important in so many aspects of my life that when it came to this, the visuals is what I wanted. I wanted that enjoyment of sitting back and just watching everything move, of watching it just dance around and being lost in like a Fantasia show. I mean, that's kind of what it was like watching Fantasia nonstop as you're high. It was that kind of an experience, and it wore off. One of the things that I always did do, because I was a raging alcoholic even at a very young age, is like I would drink during it and wouldn't feel the effects of the alcohol at all. But I still drink because a lot of the drugs out there will give you dry mouth. And so my go-to was like, hey, if I'm going to be fucked up, I might as well throw in alcohol with this. It'll only make it better. Yeah, that's a sign of a true addict right there. But it was one of those drugs that did kind of suck me in just because I enjoyed the stimulating visuals that I got, and also the sense of touch, the way that things felt in touch. I mean, it was a lot like dropping an ecstasy, Molly, whatever you want to call it. I had a very, very hyper sensual side to me that it felt amazing. The only thing I really hated is, especially even with acid, is when your pupils dilated, because people could understand that there's something not right with you on this one. But with shrooms was one of those that it didn't hit me very fast. It took its sweet ass time, and it lasted for a decent amount of time. It didn't last to me as long as acid. Acid was really my go-to psychedelic drug that I was really a go-to one if I was going to do anything. Shrooms was one of those that I would do if I couldn't get my hands on anything else. It wasn't that exciting to me. And that's the signs of addiction right there, is when you do have those different drugs of choice. Like, yeah, it wasn't a drug of choice of mine. I mean, if it came down to anything, it was cocaine. I mean, I'm very, very boisterous about that was my drug of choice. When it came to shrooms, I'd do it if it was there and I had nothing else to do. And I would sit and just enjoy myself. But it wasn't something that I actively seeked after. Because it never gave me anything that I really enjoyed about, other than just, it was like, if I want to be lazy and sit down and watch things, cool. Like, this is the drug. But if I didn't, this ain't the drug of choice. So, I mean, that was kind of my shrooms experience. I mean, I've done shrooms a decent amount of times, and yeah, you can mix it with different foods and all that. For me, though, it wasn't a thing to me. Most I got out of it was the visual. I could see anything blending into a picture. Everything became pictures. And they all became like ghouls and zombies and stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's where my fascination with zombies came from. But it's one of those experiences that, if you can pass on, I'd say pass on any drug experience personally, because if you don't realize that you're an addict and you hit that drug of choice, it fucks you up bad. But that's my opinion. And if you are struggling, down below I have links to NA and AA. I mean, get some help, because it does get better. It's not worth wasting your life. I wasted a lot of my life on drugs. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. In the description, I have links to all my different social medias. I have links to things on Amazon that I use for fidget cubes and fidget spinners. I even have a link down below to BetterHelp. I mean, it's trial and error to find out the therapy that works for you. And my goal is to bridge the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy with all the tools and experiences that we can for anybody out there struggling. I even have a link down below to the mental health Discord communities that I've created, and a link to Renewal Recovery, which is a dual diagnosis that you can go for just mental health recovery, you can go for addiction recovery, or you can go for both. I mean, find what works for you, because you're an amazing human being, and what you're going through right now, you don't have to struggle with alone. And you know what? You fucking matter. You're a BAMF. You're a badass motherfucker. You made it through 100% of your worst days to make it through 2 today. So hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this together.